It's like, I've only been gone. See, it was automatically muted. I love him. Oh,
Hello.
How are you? Long time no see.
I know. My God, you've changed so
I
much.
thought about putting on a tie. Sitting at my desk.
Oh, my God.
Sam told me not to because then it would have, she'd have to wear dresses and just be.
And then I'm grumpy.
No, not that. No, not want Sam to be perfect.
The administrator and the clerk, we gotta match vibes, except for those rare occasions where we're playing good cop, bad cop.
There you go.
When do you plan on playing good cop?
You'll know. No,
Okie dokie.
that's our strategy.
All right.
If you put some money in it.
Thank you.
Comes in focus.
Oh, is that fine?
Yeah.
That works.
Focus 50 cents.
Never tried sticking coins in the computer before. I think I'll not do that. All right, we are at 6:30 and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Let's stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Ms. Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Mayor Barker,
Here.
Mayor Tim Markle,
Here.
trustee Knudsen,
Here.
trustee Smith. Here. Trustee Valentine,
Here.
trustee Stelter,
Here.
trustee McGinnis,
Here.
have a quorum.
And we can continue. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. All right, we have a couple of announcements. Mr. Witt?
So the master plan is currently in motion and we're expecting a draft to be ready for review at our, would have been at our next meeting, but I gave an extension to them so that we can have a joint session between the Plan Commission and trustees, August 23rd at 4 p.m. Rather than the first review of the draft master plan. And I stress it's a draft. And the point of this is to start getting feedback from both the Plan Commission, the Board of Trustees, as well as the.
I would like to emphasize that the planning commission will not be meeting that week. So the first time the planning commission will be seeing it will be at that meeting. Okay, and then trustee Knudsen.
Okay, this morning, a group called Eco Flight, that's a nonprofit, ran 3 flights out of Paonia International this morning. And each flight had 4 passengers plus Natasha, who is the executive director of Citizens for Healthy Community, and the pilot, Gary, who was a paid employee of Eco Flight. What they do is they fly groups around so that you can see the impact of development on the area that you live. So they flew us right by Madison Mountain, right by Beckwoods, right next to the Marcelina, over by the Raggeds, up to Rifle, along the Grand Mesa. It sounds like a long one. It was 1 hour flight, and then back landing in Paonia. For me, I serve as the town's oil and gas local government designee. And so it was really important to see the different well pads from the air, see the roads that had to serve those well pads. You could actually see enough detail that you could tell which well pads were well maintained and which weren't well maintained. You could also really get a sense for just what an amazing area we live in. From the air, this place is totally incredible. It's just like such a prized jewel. There are some other things that aren't so prized that you see. When you fly along the side of Grand Mesa, you see an amazing amount of dead aspen from the drought and climate change kind of thing. So you see that impact. And you can also notice quite a few landslides, and you can realize from the air just how unstable this area is geologically. So if anyone has a chance in the future, they do that once a year. Contact Natasha, but it's really quite an experience. It gives you a really good perspective. And there's another announcement I have.
Okay,
I'm reading from the Merchant Herald on July 11th. It said, new town administrator Stephen Wade didn't know before what he was stepping into. He listened to a good sample of Paonia Council squabbling during the first few minutes of the July 11th town meeting. In the future, he might want to don his hip waders. So today, I brought hip waders in for our town administrator, should he need them. There you go. Appreciate it. You're welcome. That's all my announcements.
prepared. Thank you, Dave. All right, does anyone else have any announcement? Yes, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I want to let everybody know that I will be submitting a letter of resignation to the mayor and clerk before our next regular meeting. I have some administrative items that I have to finish up before I can step away as a trustee or mayor pro tem. But I want to say that my goal here as a trustee has been to see that we have experienced and ethical management in place to execute the direction and desires of our electors. And I feel that through the efforts largely of Trustee Smith and Valentine, we have now an excellent town manager. And I expect that my fellow trustees and the citizens can appreciate the stark improvement of how town is operating, which I attribute to Leslie Klusmeyer. And I fully trust that Mr. Nguyen will continue in his role. And I want to take this last opportunity. I guess I'm not leaving this meeting. I'll be here for the remainder of this meeting. But this is probably my best opportunity to give you guys a heads up. I don't know how many of you are aware of the very dynamic changes that have been happening to our planet in the past year. If you want to, I don't think that it would be worth our time right now to go through it. But if you look up the ocean temperatures, we've been setting records since March, like over the past 30 years. And I think that is probably going to continue. And I don't know what the effects are going to be, as Dave just mentioned, on our particular region. But I fully expect that this trend will continue and that other regions of the United States and other parts of the world will become less habitable. And this place may not. We might be habitable for a long time. What that means to me is that we will have a huge influx of people to deal with over the next 10 to 100 years. We need to be able to prepare to know what we're going to do. And unfortunately, I don't have a plan for you at this time. But it is something that I want you all to have on your radar, that I expect Paonia and the Western Slope in general to see a lot of influx of new people coming in as they leave places that are less habitable. And hopefully we can deal with it in a way that is fair and just. And good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Markle. Sorry you're leaving. I wish you could have served out your term. And well, thank you for your service, for putting in the time you have. Thank you very much. All right, well, I guess that opens it up. We'll be looking for new town board members. So I'm sure we will be putting something out on the website and other things. I think we will have to pass something.
Once it's official.
Yeah, once it's official. Yeah.
I'll do it. This is my verbal thing. I'll do the thing within 7 days. I read the resolution, so I'm trying to do it.
Yeah, so at the next meeting, I mean, we'll make.
So yeah, you'll have a week to prepare at least for before that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. All right, any other announcements? All right, next up is public comment. This is for any topic that is not included on the agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit. Do we have any member of the public that would like to address the board on anything that's not on the agenda? Yes, Ms. Watson.
I just wanted to comment on the marijuana license renewal on the consent agenda. And when they had their public hearing, November 11th, 2021, they presented a detailed signage plan. I mean, we did this with all the pot stores. They were very detailed about where the signage was going to go. Now there's like a clutter of signage in front of their property. It's not on the sidewalk, so it doesn't probably qualify for the business, use of the sidewalk for business purposes. But all these little signs showing, dispensary and open in the right of way, in the planting strip. And I'm wondering if that's really appropriate. It doesn't really comport with what was agreed to. It's a small detail, and I do have a problem, obviously, with all the clutter around town. I don't think it comports with our sign ordinance anyway. So if you could consider that. And then I do appreciate Thomas Markle and Knutson's comments about climate change. And I'd like us to think globally, but act locally. We have this wonderful microclimate in Paonia, and in large part it's due to the street trees, which we neglect. And I'm not talking about cutting down the trees and planting the perfect tree for 100 years from now. I'm talking about stepping up with money and starting to maintain what we have against high winds, whatever. They might not be perfect trees, but they're damn good at creating this microclimate that we need to even start doing the infill with small trees and bare spots. But trees are going to be incredibly important. It's something that we can do here locally, and it might seem minuscule, but it's really, really important to the quality of life in this town. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Would anyone else like to? Yes, ma'am. So please state your name and where you live.
Arlene Nierenberger. I am actually not in town.
That's
but the town affects me greatly because I have water and main lines go across my property. And I've had 2 leaks in past years. Tom, I'm concerned. You seem to have so much to give, and how is resigning going to help anything? Can't you do more good here? Okay, just something to think about. And the issue of climate change, I'm on Susan's side. Trees are important. They don't cause any damage. All this stuff that they're approaching climate change with is destroying the environment. Look how many acres are being taken up by the solar panels on the way to Montrose. And if you look at all the materials that go in those solar panels, much of that is strip mined. So what we're doing here to help us is destroying other places. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone, yes, Steph.
Christina Patterson, Price Road. Wow, I'm shocked. I'm so sad that you're leaving. It's like one good person after another, from Bill Bear to Tammy Mack to your wife and you now. And it's sad that people that really do such good work and have such good hearts and stand up here, sit down there and try and do the right thing again and again in opposition to people that have, obvious agendas. I really feel people that are just there trying to do the right thing. And how do I know these people are doing the right thing? Is because they were concerned before they got on as a trustee. They were sitting in the audience for years trying to learn and understand and be here. And there's so many things that you have done so good for this town that nobody will ever know. And, one of them being that huge one, that we don't have that eyesore of that dollar store that you were integral in stopping. So I just want to thank you so much. I had no idea that this was going on. I would have prepared a bigger speech. But I really appreciate you and Michelle so much and all you've done for this town, and that continues. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
All right, discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next up is staff reports. All right, we have the First Street Trent encroachment from our attorney, Mr. Bias.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you. So just a brief update on the matter. The fence encroaching into right of way. The board had previously discussed a course of action that is no longer going to be available to the town. So what we're thinking is that this matter will need to be brought into county court if it's going to be enforced due to a statute of limitations issue. So I don't expect that the costs will change much, if at all. So I do believe it's still within the board's direction to continue to proceed with this matter. Another thing that I wanted to bring up potentially with you and as part of this update is the need, and it's related to what's on the agenda, but the need to potentially hire a local attorney to prosecute matters in municipal court moving forward, just because of the lack of proximity, the distance between our firm and my location and the town. So that is something that we'll move forward with for discussion at a future meeting. So anyway, those are my comments. I just want to provide that brief update and happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for the town attorney from the board? All right, seeing none, I guess there are none. Ms. Baez, thank you so much for the update, and we will look forward to hearing as things go along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up is the town administrator's report.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. So you'll see that my reports are a little bit different than probably what you've seen in the past. I try to focus on the most pressing issues for the upcoming month and put those in my report. So what you'll see, and you'll also see that this will start on the town administrator's page of the website. You'll see that not only will the departmental scorecards be up there by month, but you'll also see the town administrator's reports up there by month. The very first item I want to talk about is our Doris Avenue sewer line replacement because it's happening on Thursday. We are breaking ground on Thursday. We had a pre-con construction meeting yesterday with our contractors. We're ready to issue a notice to proceed so that they can start the work on Doris Avenue. Door hangers for affected property owners along Doris Avenue and First Street are going out tomorrow morning. Then there's a phone number for people to contact if they have questions. And it also has my email address. So if they have any concerns, they can get a hold of somebody. But the intent is that every affected property owner there's a plan for them. So they can still access their properties. But the sewer line is going in Thursday. I think that's a long awaited project. And I'm glad that, our staff was there to do an RFP to put everything together, Mayor, that grant applications were sought and we're ready to break ground. I will say that the Public Works Director is our field superintendent, so Corey is our field superintendent, and I'm acting as the town's project manager for this. And again, there's a history of kind of how everything happened in the report. The next item is something that we've talked about at board meetings before, and I wanted to give you an update because it's something that I've been working on. It hasn't been put on the back burner. It's being actively worked on. So I have, so when we get to the point where I'm ready to make a recommendation, you'll know that there's been steps all along. So part of that is parks, parking, speed limits, and crosswalks. I've looked at some the mid-block crossing that we're talking about at Grand Avenue. Not ready to make a recommendation yet, but it's being worked on. We've talked about it in our department head meetings. To also get solutions from our public safety, so Chief Laminger, and for Public Works to take a look at. Because ultimately, they're the ones that are going to have to paint the crosswalk. But we're going to come up with some ideas to present to you for putting it for implementation. Another item is our speed limits, and so you can't really see it, but in the report, it's larger. We're talking about reducing speed limits throughout town. So those speed limits that are currently 25 miles an hour will become 20 miles an hour. Areas along parking entrances and schools will be reduced to 15 miles an hour. So that speed reduction to 15 will be along like Apple Valley Park, around Pan America. That's something we're considering. And obviously, all of these speed limit changes have to be presented to you in either a resolution or an ordinance. We're not ready to do that yet. We're just looking at what it would take to get there. So that's something that's going to come down the pike as well for your consideration. And then I've also looked at with staff and some trustees, and we've looked at the entrance to the Jumbo Mountain Trailhead with all of the different HOAs. I've met with one of our HOA vice presidents. I've talked with Trustee Knudsen about some of the issues as well. And I think we're going to have a plan ready to present. But again, that'll take final board approval because there's some policy changes that'll need to happen, like who can use the park, maybe a new trailhead access at the park as well. And when I say who can use the park, I mean who can park in the parking lot. Like there's horse trailers that use those walking trails, and that might need to change our policy on who can park in the park. So those are things that'll be brought to you as we have a solid plan. But I wanted to get it into at least an administrator's report so you're aware of the situation. One of the things that we've seen throughout town are yield signs instead of stop signs at every cross street. Those can present a danger. And there have been some police activity where with pedestrians or bicyclists and motor vehicles at some of those cross streets, like along 3rd Street. So we're looking at making a regulated sign ordinance that is for stop signs at every intersection instead of yield signs. And that way, once it's a regulated ordinance, that means that the police department can enforce it. And so it helps with like writing a uniform traffic citation for people that violate those, the stop sign. Something that doesn't exist yet. And so it's going to be an ordinance that we'll have to put together for you to consider down the road. Just wanted you to be aware that we're working on certain things meant for multimodal transportation and the safety of our streets for everyone using them, not just motorists. Okay, the next 3 pages, the mayor, you put together a wonderful kind of drawn out grant map for me. And so I figured, well, how do I make that digital? I made a digital grant map, roadmap on what has been awarded, what we've applied for, what projects they're going towards, what those anticipated costs are or what those realized costs are, so that I can understand what's happening or what's going on. And then the public can understand what work has been done to secure additional funding, because it's actually kind of incredible the amount of additional funding or supplemental revenue that's come in to help go towards some of these projects. So you can see that it's broken up as like planning grants. I did make the change. It's not, I changed one of the grants I had listed as DOLA IHOP for all of our planning grants. That wasn't right. It's actually DOLA Strong Communities Planning Grant for a lot of them. So I made those changes. The reason hydrogeological was busted out of water was actually because I ran out of room, but it kind of looks better this way anyway. So, but that's funded by multiple grants. But I think it's just important as a visual to see all of the different revenue that's coming in separate from tax dollars. So these are grants. These are things that if we don't apply for, somebody else will. And so I'm glad to see that we're actually doing that. So one of that is like a Doris Avenue sewer line replacement. We're getting $137,756 from DOLA towards that project. I mean, that's incredible. We're getting almost half of that project paid for. It's incredible. So that will be up on the website as well. I'll try to find a spot for it so everybody can see it and we can keep referencing it, because this is, obviously when you look at that water, the amount of projects needed, it's $24 million. So this is something that I think will be updated as time goes on. The next item is believe it or not, we're ready to start budget planning for fiscal year 2024. It's kind of crazy. So one of the things I'm going to just present to you tonight is, it's not that it needs formal board approval. You just need to be aware of it. We're not done with our fiscal year 22 audit. And so we have to ask for an extension to the state auditor's office. I'm letting you know that we're going to fill out an extension so that, for September 30th, 2023. Once that's submitted to the state, we should be in good, we should have a path forward and it should be good. But again, it doesn't require board approval. I'm just letting you know that that's an administrative function, but I have to let you know we're asking for an extension for that audit. I want to say that our office staff, as well as our professional management solution staff, have worked really hard at getting our general ledger to the point where it's ready to go. And you'll see financial, I think you saw some of the printouts was we finally have financial statements, right? So their fiscal year 23, end of June financial statements. You can see budget to actuals. So that's something that I'm glad that they've worked hard on. They're out there, and to the best of my knowledge, they're accurate. So I also, in this budget planning for fiscal year 24, outlined the process that we're going to take as staff to create what we think would be something the finance committee wants to see and the board of trustees wants to see, but also takes into account not only needs of our departments, because their department heads will be getting a worksheet from me soon to fill out their needs and where they're going to go or what their department may want. For fiscal year 24, but all of that will be taken into consideration. We'll put something into a draft for you all to review, but I go through that process in this report. Budget, the department heads will be very involved with our budget process, as well as the finance committee and the board of trustees. So, and then the last page of that report is the DOLA local government budget calendar. So you can see where we're at. By August 25th, our assessors are the county assessor is supposed to certify what our assessed value is so that we understand and can forecast our revenue for next year. I don't know if that's ever been explained to you in the past, but that's typically how I build a budget is you have to forecast your revenue. You have to have an accurate assessed value. So hopefully once we get that report from the assessor's office, we'll be able to make sure it's all. That concludes my report. The chief's report, he asked me to present this as well since he's on vacation. And I said, don't call in, I can handle this. He said that with all of the special events that they handled in the summer, he was very surprised at how well everybody complied, just like previous years, but it went very well. And then I did want to add one thing. In his blotter report, there was a traffic accident noted on June 28th. Trustee Knudsen, I think you brought it to my attention that this was in a traffic report, but there was actually a traffic accident at 5th Street Grand Avenue. So that's a project on the horizon that we're going to be doing. So to have this data to say that it's currently unsafe kind of helps us with CDOT. So since it is a grant funded project. So I wanted to include that as well, that it's kind of a wonky intersection, and once it's done and approved and project's done, it'll be really good. It was you, Trustee Stelton, that told me about, I don't remember. So, but I put it in there. So there you have it. That concludes our staff reports. And now it's the housing needs assessment staff report and action plan update. I told them that I'd at least add it into our presentation. And if one of you wants to give an update on how the last task force meeting went, please.
I could do that, I suppose. So we had their draft housing needs assessment that we all reviewed and came in and had comments and suggestions and just really kind of got the background on what they learned at the Housing Task Force Open House. There's a really nice summary that will be provided to the public of what the comments were there and how everybody got a dot, yellow or blue, depending on the topic. And so they have that all written out. What were the most important issues that the town is facing housing wise and what people thought were the most useful tools to address those important issues. So all of that will be presented to the public. I'm assuming that's going to be part of the housing assessment report draft, which the Housing Task Force is going to see prior to our August 31st meeting. And then actually, I think I don't remember the date, Dave.
Well,
Trustee
we have our
Knudsen
task force meeting, but then it's coming to the.
Here.
Yeah, it's coming to the board.
in there, I can't remember, anyway, I didn't keep
So-
minutes. I did not take really, I was prepared to talk about it because they do such a good job.
So just so you're aware, your next housing task force meeting is number 4. It's planned for August 31st.
Right. What I couldn't remember is if, and their intent is that we will be looking at the housing, not the needs, what they're proposing,
With the action.
action plan, housing action, sorry. And we will be reviewing that. And then I think they already set up which meeting where it'll come to the public and the trustees. I just can't remember. Is that in there?
I don't have that one in there, but you are correct. It is the housing action plan.
Yeah. And so all that'll be come in front of the public and the trustees with supposed to be plenty of time to review it.
Cool.
The only thing I want to add is a personal observation I made as a volunteer. Paige is also a volunteer at the housing assessment. It was the public session. What really impressed me was the diligence of the people that came to that meeting. They really studied the information. They would take the handouts and sit down at a table and read through them. So it wasn't just this general kind of mud against the wall, guessing where our dots should be based on reading titles. These were people that were very thoughtful about what they're trying to do. And the task force was given every single comment sheet that everybody wrote. So it's really kind of fun to go through there and read all the different comments that people had. It was very thorough and very thoughtful. So this is a public session I think people should take very seriously because there's really good thought put into it by the people that attend.
Okay, thank you. So,
To answer, Trustee Smith, to answer your question, they plan to have the housing needs assessment by August 15th for board's review. And then it would be on the August 22nd board meeting.
Thank you. Thought there was an intermediate. Thank you.
thank you. All right. So questions for our town administrator on anything he's presented, which has been a lot of information. Yes, Trustee.
I just wondered if you could give us the rundown of how much money was actually budgeted for the Doris sewer. Because I feel like it was 100,000.
It was slightly more than that. So in the Doris Avenue, we had, it was originally expected to cost $275,512. But after we did that RFP process and K&D construction was selected, that lowest amount was $299,399.50. So there's going to be an expected budget amendment that'll come through in the amount of $23,887.50. So, and that's saying that they don't run into any issues and there's change orders that are needed. So, but we can expect a budget amendment before the end of this year to cover those costs.
I can just follow up. I did not, I breezed through the Castell new budget, but I didn't notice if we have a pretty good buffer in our streets budget. I didn't look at that particular to be able to make sewer in our, sewer, I'm sorry, in the sewer budget.
We're going to be okay.
A pretty good buffer, good.
Yeah, so there's a healthy so enterprise funds, healthy surplus that we should be able to use.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Trustee
Yeah, I was hoping that, I think you mentioned maybe that this report would be available on the website.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was very pleased with the thoroughness and the information enclosed in it, and I was surprised that it wasn't in the packet, but then I realized that it came in on Sunday, so.
Sorry.
Right.
No family at home and no internet, so I wrote this
No
weekend.
worries, I just think it would be great for the public to see this. Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah.
Just two things. First of all, I'm glad to hear that we'll get a budget amendment. We're not used to that. And then secondly,
I don't have that information, but I know that, I don't know the actual name of the firm, but Professional Management Solutions are third-party bookkeeper, if you will. They were working with finding us a builder. I don't know the name. I can get back to
because
you.
the last time we went out to bid for the auditing firm, we looked at their proposals. So
I know we're in a time crunch to get this done by the end of September. I don't know how we can get an RFP done at that time. Our previous auditor, maybe there wasn't as much follow through as we wanted, so. But thank you. I know, if I'm not mistaken, the previous auditor retired. Right. So, right. Once they had done ours, they were confessing.
Okay, anything else for the town administrator? Okay, seeing none, let's move on then to,
Do we have public comments on that agenda item?
all right, next, we're moving on to resolution 12 to 2023, clarifying North Fork Valley Airport Advisory Committee and Liaison. Mr. Witt.
So I've met with the recently created North Fork Valley Airport Advisory Committee. It was their chairman, Neil Schuerman. I met with him and discussed some of the organization and duties that they've established in a previous resolution. And there were some things that just didn't match with the resolution that the board had passed for committees. And so this resolution is to make it so that the organization and duties of the NFVAAC are in line with the resolution that was passed earlier in July. And so that's some of the changes that I'm asking for, or that we're asking for, so that it matches the intent of your previous resolution. Some of the activities that would be changed would be within that, to clarify that the organizational structure, they're only advisory for operations and budgetary needs. And that in their duties, it's the town administrator who is the liaison between the committee, between the town and the county. What was in the original document was that the committee would, or the advisory committee would be the liaison between everybody. And just to clean it up, it makes more sense to have an actual staff member do that duty. The reporting, so there were changes to the reporting required for normal budgetary cycles, making sure that the town administrator and treasurer knows what their needs are ahead of any draft budget, so that they're not presenting, the committee wouldn't be presenting a budget during our budget approval process. It would come in ahead of time, be considered through that entire budget cycle. And then they had included something called a master plan for the airport. That is actually considered a capital improvement plan. And so not a master plan, they're looking at capital improvements. And so we changed that name as well. And then required that the CIP be kept in town hall. It said that the town will keep a copy, but it just needs to be in town hall, so that we know where that record will be kept. And then clarified when they're going to present to the board. So it just said they'll present in March and they'll present in September. We clarified that it'll be the second meeting in March and the first meeting in September.
Okay, all right, comments from the public? Yes, Ms. Watts.
So, it's the entire administrator's report, right?
Pardon?
It's the entire
No,
administrator.
we're just talking about the airport advisory committee.
Okay. I just want to say, it would be nice when you say public comment is on any agenda, anything that's not on the agenda. If there's specifically things you're not allowing public comment on, it would be nice to let people know so they can make a comment during the open comment period, because it's, you know what, you're not being nice and you're not being fair. And in fact, I think we need to put one of these signs right here so you can look at it. I mean, you have it so we have to look at it, but you're not able to look at it.
See right there.
That's not close enough. It's too.
I'm going to read it from here.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Watts. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and where you live when you come up to the podium.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ashley Sargent and I live at 115 First Street. So I'm getting up to comment on
The fence matter.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sargent, we are only talking about the North Fork Airport Advisory Committee.
But just as Suzanne pointed out.
I'm sorry, ma'am, you have a comment at the very beginning of the meeting during the public comment period where you could have gotten up and said your piece.
It's
That
any
is-
topic not included on the agenda, 3-minute time limit.
That's at the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting.
But just
That
as-
is passed.
Can I speak? I'm a
No, you may
citizen.
not.
You're silencing me?
Yes, ma'am.
For what reason?
Because the public comment period is passed. There was a period where you could have gotten
When
up
was that?
and said, I'm sorry, ma'am.
But
but
when
it
was
is
it? Can you clarify for me?
There is a time at the beginning of the meeting when you can get up and address the board on anything that is not on the agenda.
Right, but it
You
is
could
on the
have-
agenda. It's on the agenda.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sargent, but this, we are only.
Let me make a point of order.
Yes, sir.
This person was present when that agenda item was being discussed, and there was no request for public input at the time we were discussing it. And the lawyer gave us his report. She did not know that was the time that she could speak. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Knutson. However, we do not take public comment during staff report. And that has been set by the board.
So when is this time, just for clarification? When-
I am not
I'm
going to
asking
engage
procedural-
in back and forth with you, Ms.
I'm
Sargent.
asking a procedural question. When is the correct time for me to speak?
It was at the beginning of the meeting during public comment.
Okay, but it says here, public comment, any topic.
Ma'am, I'm not going to
included on the
argue with
agenda.
you. You are out of order. Please take your seat.
Well, this topic is on the agenda.
I'm sorry,
So
ma'am.
Therefore, it's not clear when my time is to speak.
Let me tell you something, I've been doing this a long time, you guys are wrong on this fence matter, so lawyer, be very sure that you're gonna win this case, because you have
I
violated.
think we should take, I would like to ask the board for a 5-minute
You have silenced
recess.
her, you have silenced
Yeah, you have
her.
silence, have a motion for a 5-minute
It's gonna go way over budget, guaranteed, okay? You better know.
I
what you're
just want to
talking
say
about.
one
5-minute recess.
All right, do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are in a 5-minute recess.
40 minutes recess.
I have not been allowed to speak over 3 years. I just want to point that out, that I've come to you very calmly, peacefully, kindly, always. I've never approached any of you individually. I've never petitioned anyone. I've been.
Most petty.
No. I've been very, very calm, and I would like to have my time to speak. I've written a letter. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I didn't have to. Okay.
I'm disengaged.
Because I mean. They go through everything, this little.
He's probably agreeing right now.
But that's fertilizer.
No, but you saw the.
Somehow I got that.
All right, we are back in session. All right. Any more public comment on the North Fork Airport Advisory Committee? All right, anything from the board? Yes, this is Tracy Smith.
My question is, I knew we had appointed two people. Is there a third? Is there still an opening for the third community person?
There is. Yeah, so again, I believe that Chairman Schwederman, sorry, it's S last name. He was actively looking for somebody to join that.
And just if I can follow up, just to make, so you will be the town representative on the committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Trustee McKinnis.
Yeah, I was curious, do you have a sense of how much that would add to the town administrator's workload? I'm sensitive of how much roles and responsibility are getting shifted to the town administrator. And I don't necessarily want those to kind of outstrip the individual that's there. So can you give us a sense of like what that would look like on a month to month, or?
I certainly hope it's not a monthly meeting. So from what I gathered from Mr. Schwederman, it's at the very least, it sounds like 2 meetings a year.
Okay.
Towards budget time, or at least towards the reporting periods for the board. I don't anticipate it being very many. I did ask, can this be during normal work time? And he said that most of their board members are retired, so it could be during, the normal operating hours of town.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay, then, yes.
I'm wondering, I have been to the airport, but only because I went up with a citizen, and I don't believe, it's one of those pieces of municipal infrastructure that I think all the trustees should see. And it's in here. It'd be really nice if we could set up a time to get a tour.
Sure.
And it has to be published, of course, as a notice, but I would love that. I don't know how many other people haven't really gone up and seen it.
Okay, so can we get a motion on resolution 12, 2023? There's recommendations right there.
Move to approve resolution 12, 2023 is written.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, let's move on to appointing town administrator as liaison to the North Fork Airport Advisory Committee.
I should also point out that both of these agenda items, including the resolution, they have been approved as to form by the town attorney.
Okay. All right.
Thumbs up.
All right. Anything from the public?
I'm sorry.
Seeing none. Yes, Mr. Wynn, did you have something to add? Okay. Could we get a motion on appointing Mr. Wynn to liaison to the town, well, actually the town administrator, period, as liaison to the North Fork Valley Airport Advisory Committee?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint the town administrator as the liaison with the town and the airport. Stephen Wynn to the town administrator, Stephen Wynn, to the North Fork Valley Airport Advisory Committee until such time as the Board of Trustees deems a change to be necessary.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, mayor and trustees report. I do not have a written report. I would like to say that, yes, the $1 million Tier 2 DOLA grant has been submitted, and that's for the relining of the 2 million gallon tank. So that Mr. Wynn and I will probably have to go to Denver to do a presentation on that at some point before it's approved. Also put in the state revolving fund loan pre-qualification application for $8.25 million to take care of all the clay pipe in the town sewer system. So that has been submitted as well. Went to do the SIPA grant, and after looking at what equipment we were returning and what was left in the grant fund, decided we didn't need to write a SIPA grant, that there was actually enough money left in the SIPA grant that we didn't supplement those funds at all. So did not write a SIPA grant. And then tomorrow, Mr. Wynn and I will be traveling to Rifle to attend a SRF conference put on by DOLA and CDPHE. Okay. All right. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, two things. That conference is, while it's not mandatory, it sounded like it was very mandatory and strongly encouraged. So that's why we're attending as SRF recipients. And as a follow-up, our Proposition 123 application has been approved.
All right, anything from any of the committees? Yes.
I just wanted to mention that Trustee Stelzer and I will be having a Parks Committee meeting. We want to look over the Paonia and Motion Plan to make more solid recommendations to the board so that the plan could actually be adopted by the board, just accepted by the board.
Okay.
So that'll be on the third Tuesday of the month, the town hall.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I had a question, if I could ask Trustee Markle a question.
Sure.
Is this your last meeting?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make a statement about that. First of all, as the public knows, they probably had to put on their waders when Trustee Markle and I have gotten into it with each other. And we've done that several times during our terms. I do want to say that I really appreciate his dedication about public input and his dedication about transparency. I have no questions about his intent on that, and I'm thanking for his service. Your work with the formula businesses really helped. Thank you. There you go. Very nice stuff.
All right, if there's nothing else, then I am adjourning this meeting. My God.
Hey, we can still go to the farmer's market.
Oh, true.